So I posted some nonsense on my community tab regarding the guy that was killed. I guess he was put in a chokehold by a Marine. Supposedly he was having some kind of mental breakdown. And he might have been yelling and screaming or something and saying something about he's ready to die or he wants to die or something to that effect. And I've been watching a few takes from left wing media, and I've been very, very disappointed. They brought up some very good points and very good unaddressed or adequately addressed concerns in society in terms of, what leads people to be homeless in the first place, the neglect of the homeless and the lack of, you know, compassion and giving these people what they need. And I can appreciate those sides of their arguments, but overall, um, it's just that they're such in an echo chamber. Um, and I feel, as usual, the focus is more on advancing their progressive rhetoric as opposed to a serious sort of analysis of what occurred, you know. And I definitely saw some unhinged takes for sure. What was it called? Leftist Mafia or something like that. Yeah, of course, Ole. Uh, she's always got to have an unhinged. Like, god damn. I don't know what. She's like the female version of Kramer from Seinfeld. The guy with his coffee comes in the room, he slides in. How you doing, Jerry? It's just like, man, simmer down. God damn. I mean, I can appreciate being passionate about something, but this lady's just always on 200. But I'm sure some of my left leaning audience will wonder what it is exactly that I had a concern with or didn't agree with. Well, for example, things like the many assumptions made that conveniently serve their progressive rhetoric, right? So, for example, um, there was no, there was not even a thought that maybe, just maybe, this homeless guy had any responsibility whatsoever for where he's at in life. It's like he's just some kind of, I don't know, he has no will, there's no, you know what I mean? His failure. It's just, I think it's ridiculous to just look at a homeless guy and just assume society failed this person. I mean, that is to suggest that it's impossible for a person to have any sort of accountability or responsibility for the direction that their life takes. I mean, I think it's just an example of just tribal thinking. It's either one or the other. So these are people who correctly recognize that our government leaves many people behind, and rather than address those issues properly, you get to the root of the problem. I mean, we push for and focus on things like imprisoning people. We just keep locking people up, regardless of what it does to the trajectory of crime. So crime could be increasing, and we lock up more people. Crime could continue to increase at the same rate, theoretically, right? So I'm not saying a specific fact. I'm just saying this is the mentality. Crime could be increasing at a similar rate to before we did the increase in incarceration, and yet there would not be a moment of reflection like, wait a minute, maybe we're doing this wrong, right? There's like, well, we have a lot of crime, we need more police. And you do that, and again, I'm not saying this is what's happening, but you could look and see, well, it's not really, crime's not going down, it's still increasing at the same rate or very similar rate. We doubled our police force, yet crime barely moved at all, but yet we're still confident that the solution is lock more people up. So I can recognize the flaw in those arguments. I can recognize that there's a lot to be desired from our government in terms of dealing with those types of things. However, on the same token, again, I don't want to be a tribalist and just think that's the only thing, right? I want to recognize that yes, many people are left behind, and for all the taxes that we pay, I believe we could do a much better job at helping people from falling through the cracks. On the same token, I also can recognize that some people have a little bit more responsibility for their outcomes than maybe they want to accept. I mean, I don't know. I just have to, I just can't accept the premise that, we are all just, the only way that I can fail is if my government fails me. I just can't accept that. What if I'm just lazy, right? Now, again, because of tribalism, people that are on the other side, politically speaking, that's all they want to talk about is people who are lazy. They don't want to work, right? With all these socialist programs, they get paid more to stay home than to go to work. They just got rid of these programs and stop incentivizing laziness, then they would go out and go to work, right? It's just like you got to lean in this way or lean in that way. There's no sort of nuance. There's no sort of, let's look at this in a balanced way, not in a centrist way, but a balanced way. Let's consider the pros and cons of both approaches, and let's look at what seems to work. Let's do more of that. Recognize things that aren't working. Let's modify that behavior, right? Um, but I would like to believe I live in the world of reality. And in the world of reality, you have people who really tried their best and failed as a result of the many problems in our society in terms of our government not really doing its job properly, right? So you did the work, you tried your best, but your government just really didn't support you as you need. That's that particular person. That's not everyone has that same need. This particular person, it's not just about their hard work. They needed an extra boost and they didn't get the extra boost based on the home they came from, the community they were brought up in, whatever. So many different circumstances. Maybe they got a disability, so many different circumstances. But there's people who did their best and still failed, and they would have actually not failed if the government had provided some support in certain ways. Maybe there's someone who has a mental issue, don't have the money for health insurance. If the government provided insurance for them, they could maybe have gotten through their mental issues and then been able to actually live a normal life, have a normal job, take care of themselves. But because they don't have enough money for insurance and the government doesn't take care of them, they spiral out of control with their mental illness, and then their whole life is a disaster. They don't have any money. Next thing you know, they end up on the street, right? We can recognize that, while at the same time we can recognize people who are capable of doing the same work and trying their best, but choose not to. They feel entitled or whatever it is, and they just, lazy, whatever it is. Um, I think both sides need to take more seriously the existence of both of these types of people. You can't have one side only focusing on they're lazy, and then the other side focusing on it. The government can solve all problems. Not saying that, but that's how they act, right? Because again, one of the many bad takes I see regarding the guy that got killed is the assumption that the system somehow failed this guy. Um, what's wrong with that statement? I'm pretty sure, just like with Kyle Rittenhouse and the Young Turks, the people saying that the system failed him didn't do any research at all whatsoever into his history, where he came from, what led him to the path that he took. Right? This is classic tribalism. You latch on to a convenient narrative that supports your rhetoric and your tribe, and then you just, all in. And you keep repeating it. And, the system failed this guy. The system failed this guy. Now, that could be true. But my point is, I'm pretty sure that the people who are saying the system failed him are not saying it based on any facts. They're just saying it based on feelings and, again, rhetoric and, again, tribalism, right? They automatically see someone who's homeless and mentally ill, and it's like, oh, the system has failed this person. For all we know, this guy's actions are what led him to where he is today. There's many ways for you to end up with a mental illness, right? It's not just you were just born that way or whatever. It could be, a situation where the system was available to help this person, and that person chose not to take the help that was available to them. Maybe family members try to help them, a lot of people try to help them, but they just had a bad attitude or whatever it is. Again, I can't assume zero responsibility of this person. I just assume it's totally on the government and they failed this person. So I just don't buy that. And then also the other issue I had is they were talking about, automatically demonizing this guy who put him in a chokehold. Now, admittedly, and just like typically on this channel, my focus is more on critiquing media, right? So I'm not really getting that much. Sometimes I will, but in this case, I'm not really getting that much into the story of what really happened, right? I'm more interested in how it's actually been covered. So when I hear, again, the assumptions that align with certain types of rhetoric and, the tribe, I hear people talking about, this guy being inappropriate trying to restrain this person. Now, putting him in a headlock for 15 minutes, that's ridiculous and irresponsible. But the automatic sort of presumption that, he's unhinged, not those exact words, but, it's ridiculous for him to try to restrain this guy. Like, who are you to restrain this guy? He didn't threaten anyone. Leave him alone. Leave the guy alone. Right? When we all know that there have been situations just like that where the person wasn't restrained and then people ended up dead. Now, I'm not trying to use that to justify this guy killing this other person. But I'm just saying the idea that you just automatically leap to the conclusion of, oh, this guy restraining him, and why would he do that? You don't need to restrain him. He didn't actually threaten anyone. I mean, it's just you're just completely just ignoring the realities of, we do have some crazy people who will do outbursts like that. And next thing you know, a bunch of people end up dead. Now, I say that from a very interesting context. As a person who has lived many, many years in New York City, right? Who has ridden the train for many, many, many years, late at night when I used to go clubbing, coming home from work, going to work, right? Riding through Brooklyn, riding through the Bronx, riding through Manhattan. I've been all over New York City on a train, right? So I'm not some outsider, just commenting from my basement, talking about stuff I don't know nothing about. I know about the subway, and I know about that there's crazy people in the subway, right? Some of the, progressive media folks commented like, this is a normal thing, people getting crazy, and normally, nothing comes of it, right? We see people screaming all the time, and it's absurd for you to come to a place like New York City and, not be able to handle someone screaming on the train. Now, I wasn't there on the train, but obviously in this situation, people felt the need to restrain this guy. And I think that says something, because just like how it's normal to see people screaming and acting crazy, it's also normal for people to leave them alone, right? And I know some people try to comment on this guy. They try to make him like he's an outsider. I bet you he's not even from New York, even though the news said. A lot of this has come from leftist mafia. The other part was, I think, Majority Report. But they try to comment and say, oh, he's probably an outsider. He's not in New York because we New Yorkers, we know how to handle this stuff. Yeah, right? We New Yorkers, we know how to handle this stuff. Why are you picking on this one guy? What about the other people? I think they said there were three people that tried to restrain him. Why were those people trying to restrain him? Are you going to say everybody on the train wasn't from New York? Nobody was on. So New York, we know how to handle this stuff. But on this train, it just so happened nobody was from New York, and that's why they all went crazy. Or could it be that there was something unique about the circumstance that led them to believe that they need to restrain this guy? Context could be maybe something that happened recently in the news, or just the way things went down. Again, I just find it disheartening when people look at a situation like this and they just automatically just, oh, he's probably not even from New York, or, the idea of you trying to restrain someone. I mean, again, we've seen many instances where crazy people like this end up killing someone. Now, here's an interesting perspective. So I see all this, but I'm also the person who, I just reject the crime wave rhetoric that, we hear coming from the right in New York, right? New York is one of the safest cities in the country. I know what New York looks like dangerous, because I was in New York when it was dangerous, I guess like in the 80s. This is not that, not by any stretch. So I don't buy into this, fear-mongering. Every day somebody's getting pushed on the tracks. You know how many millions of people are in New York City? You know how many millions of people are in New York City? If a lot of people are getting pushed on the track, trust me, man. You think you're hearing some stories now about, the crime wave? Oh, that would be, you really hear something. You got a high percentage of people in a city with millions of people. No, it's going to be a lot more attention on this. And it's not going to be just coming from right wing, right? Yes, some people get pushed on the subway. That is just the nature of, I don't know if you call it statistics, right? The more people you have in a place, the more of the fractional things that happen everywhere that will happen, right? Every state, every city in America, there are people who rape women, right? The bigger your population, the more people that do that you're going to have, right? If you got a small city or low population, it's going to be rare people get pushed on the tracks. The more population you have, the more people get pushed on the tracks. And, 1% of a million is a pretty big number, right? What is New York, 6, 7 million? There's not an epidemic of people getting pushed on the tracks. I'm sorry, man. That's not what's happening. Right, so I don't buy into the crime wave rhetoric and all that kind of fear-mongering stuff that gets you clicks and views and engagement. I don't buy into that, right? So again, recognizing that New York's one of the safest city in the country, um, I say that, and I still say that I would wonder at least. That's the thing. At least I would wonder if there's a reason why three people, I think is what I read. Correct me if I'm wrong. Three people felt the need to restrain this guy, and then this guy, the military guy, got involved. Um, I don't think any of these progressive media folks even thought about that, and that's the thing I really have a problem with. Again, this emotional response. Automatically, the homeless guy, the system failed him. No thought at all about maybe he had some level of responsibility, right? Recognizing that some people are lazy and other people the system fail. Like there's two types, right? They don't seem to recognize that. It's just like if you failed, then it's the system that failed you, right? And then the idea that just jump into the idea that these people are just crazy to try to restrain someone, even though we've seen situations like this that got out of hand and people end up dead. Um, Even goofball Tim Pool was able to find some story. Of course, he's being an idiot as well, but find some story where I guess some guy had restrained some person and ended up saving lives, and he was looked at as a hero. And now this person does it. I mean, I guess that other person didn't kill the person, but now this person does it, and it's automatically just like he's a wacko. Um, I just think it's always going to be problematic when you look at something in a one-dimensional way. And this is stuff I see on the right wing all the time, right? Uh, you have certain events that happen that align with certain rhetoric, and folks on the right just gravitate towards it, and they just accept a certain narrative, and there isn't much thought about what really happened on the other side of the story. And that's what I see come from progressive media. Automatically, this is used as something to push their ideology. This is a thing on homeless people, and the government needs to do more, and this and that. And it's almost as if it's disingenuous, like they're doing it intentionally, like they actually look at the story and with no consideration for what really happened, right? They have no interest at all whatsoever. They say, this would be a great story that I can use to push things that I believe in, and that's the focus. And you look at it from every angle that you can talk about it in a way that pushes the ideology you want to push. You just jump on that, right? And if someone points out some details like, but wait a minute, the guy did this and then he punched him first, and you're like, well, they're not interested in hearing the other side. I almost said Jake Paul. What was his name? Jacob Blake, right? There was a second camera angle. I don't need a second camera angle. I saw all I needed to see in the first camera angle. What could I see in the second camera angle that would change anything that I saw? Right? No interest. Right? Why was Jacob Blake there in the first place? Right? What happened before the video started? No interest. You see something that aligns with a rhetoric that you like to push, right? Or serves your tribe, and you just automatically, oh, look at this racist cop, and he could have done anything but kill this guy, blah, blah, blah. And again, any evidence that, contradicts that rhetoric, it's not, you're not trying to hear it. You're not interested. I don't want to hear about it. Anyway, I'm an idiot, so instead of me showing these videos that I'm actually commenting on and commenting directly on what I observed, I just did this like free thought video, which many people are not going to understand and not really necessarily get my point, but I just wanted to talk about it. And rather than go look up the video and set up a whole screen recording thing, I thought I would just come straight out and talk about this issue, based on, my thoughts. And that's what this video is. Big dum-dum. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the left-wing media response to this? Also, what do you think about the right-wing response? I think they're both a failure, in my view, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Comment below.